Well, you all will get to have the privilege of seeing me melt in real time because it is hot today. All right, so maybe I'll make this a quick one, hopefully. All right, so like usual, God loves to give me personal dreams to step me through and give me kind of heads up of what's going on, step me through things that I'm going through. Last week, before Dustin and I got some very shocking news, God gave me 2 dreams back to back in the same night, and I woke up and I knew they were the same dream, like they shared the same symbols and the same interpretation. I did not know at that time what the interpretation was until within 24 to 36 hours we got some news and it started playing out, and then the dreams made sense. And then I thought, when God gives you reoccurring dreams, He is telling you this is coming, it's coming imminent, it's imminent that it's coming, and that like it's for sure going to happen and quickly. So I knew that, but I rarely have 2 dreams back to back the same night that have the same interpretation. Because of my experience last week that I will talk about later, not right now, but because some things have to come out first before I talk about those. Anyway, so but what I learned from last week is that when you have 2 dreams back to back, you better get ready because something's going to happen. All right, so I say that because last night or this morning, I had 2 dreams back to back. And I woke up and I instantly knew that this dream had to deal with wealth, prosperity, and possibly tithing. And I knew that 2 of the dreams were the same, and the third one probably had something to do with it, but I'm not quite sure. I'm going to hold off on talking about that one yet. Because that might not be one that I need to release, is what I'm feeling from God. Okay, so let's talk about those 2 dreams so you can kind of see how the same symbols, like God can give you 2 different dreams and they mean the same thing. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about today and kind of teach about today. And sorry, our lawn needs to be in the mode, and so my husband's doing it. That's all the racket out there. Okay, so one of the dreams, I went into a grocery store, and a lot of my friends from church were there, and they had all ordered a whole hog, and they were leaving the store with a whole hog, like a dead one that's skinned and ready to cook. One that's not already prepared, but one that's ready to cook. And I mean like pretty much the whole hog. And one of my friends, an older lady from church, starts leaving with her whole hog, and she turns around, she goes, I'm going to need to get this cut up. And she goes back, she gets it in more manageable pieces, and then she leaves. So 3 of my friends left with a whole hog. And I came in, I was like, whoa, where'd you guys get that? Because I'm totally interested. And they're like, go talk to the butcher. And so I went to the butcher and said, I'd like to have a whole hog. He said, it might take me a little while to get to you today, but I'll get to you. I said, just take your time, but I want to put my order in. He goes, I got your order. So that was one dream. Let's talk about that dream for a minute. I think I should talk about one and one. So it's a grocery store. So a place of a plentiness, right? They have everything stored there, and they have everything that you need. And so you have this place. What was the word that God gave me this morning when I was unpacking it? Not a place of preparation, because that's more like the kitchen. But just a place of plenty, okay? A place of plenty. That's what I'm hearing right now. And it's interesting that all my friends that I saw were from my church, okay? So there's that aspect of it. And there was 3 of them. So 3 is a godly number, kind of like the Trinity, almost kind of like a complete number. And a hog or a pig means good fortune, wealth, honesty, prosperity, hardworking, and generous. All right, so when I was sitting with God with this, I was like, what was this first dream? And he's like, out of a place of plentiful, the people from the church are going to be blessed. They're going to have this prosperity, and you're going to put your order in. So ask and you should receive type of thing. But also, when I was just contemplating on this dream and getting the interpretation from him, I felt strongly that God was talking about tithing and giving here too. And that was before I looked up what a pig meant. And part of the meaning of like a whole hog is generosity and being generous. So I think God in this dream is tithing your generosity, your tithing and giving in and out of church, but especially the church being tithers and givers, and that you will receive out of plenty, you will receive plenty. And so God is talking here about reaping what you're sowing, okay? And oh my word, is God talking a lot about reaping and sowing right now. So it's not a surprise that I woke up and God was saying reaping and sowing in this dream. A lot of the prophets are talking about you're going to reap what you sow in this hour, good or bad. So that is not a surprise to me. But when I looked up what a pig meant, and that just made a whole lot of sense to me in this dream. Phase 1 of melting, if you can see. All right, so the second dream, my husband and I went to this little dinner dive place. It was a kind of, you don't sit down, you just order up at the window, you go to the next window, you grab your stuff. So we ordered a shrimp plate, and the plate I got had these huge shrimp, a side dish of rice, side dish of beans, and then some pistachios, kind of like 4 or 5 pistachios thrown in, on my plate, kind of like by the rice. All these foods really are Southern foods, by the way. So when you have like shrimp and rice and beans, really Southern. Anyway, so I got my plate and I went to pay just for me, and it was $250. And I was like, whoa, for lunch, $250? And he's like, yeah, $250. I was like, I'd like to take this back. I don't want to spend $250 on my lunch. And I said, sorry, we already rang it up. Here is your plate. So then I started taking my plate down the boardwalk, and people noticed how big my shrimp were. And they were amazed about what food I had on my plate. All right, so you might be like, how is that the same dream as you walking out with a hog and from the grocery store? All right. So with this, again, a restaurant, the food is already prepared. Restaurants have plenty of food. Food is already prepared, similar to a grocery store. But the symbols on the plate were fascinating. When I woke up enough, I knew it was the same dream that I had from the grocery store, but I didn't know how close the symbols were until I started looking it up. So here we go. Hold on to your hats. Ready? Pistachios, health, happiness, and fortune. Rice, prosperity. Beans, money and coins. And shrimp, liveliness, happiness, and good fortune. That is a good plate. That is a good plate. But I put my order in, like at the grocery store. But it cost me a lot. So again, God is saying you have to put in your order. You have to put money forth. You have to sow in to reap. But when I got it, it was a plate full of goodness, and people took notice. So I find that fascinating how closely the symbols were. I'm going to kind of go through the symbols again. So pistachios, health, happiness, and fortune. Rice, prosperity. Beans, coins, and money. shrimp, liveliness, happiness, and good fortune. And then you have pigs, which is good fortune, wealth, honesty, prosperity, hardworking, and generous. Those are pretty stinking close in terms of symbols. And then you have the restaurant and the grocery store. You have me putting my order in, okay? But it was going to cost me a lot of money. And I think, I'm going to bet, I probably did not write this down, but I'm going to bet that hog was probably going to be pretty expensive. It was fascinating to me that I gotta remember. It was very interesting to me that God used 250. Okay, that's what he was saying. He was telling me seven. I was like, where was 7 in my dream? 250. 2 plus 5 plus 0, 7. 7 is a number of completion, like he created the world in 7 days. But 250 also is a fascinating number to me. It means various things to me. I tend to give in 250s for certain things. I wouldn't say I tend to give in 250s. God calls me to give in 250s. And so, so it's fascinating that was the number he put in my dream, and now it's completely fascinating. He just told me 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, and then I realized that 2 plus 5 plus 0 is 7. So I might need to unpack that a little bit more of why he calls me when he calls me to give. Sometimes, more often than not, it's in that number. So that's completely fascinating to me. So anyway, those were my 2 dreams that I woke up and I realized those are the same exact dream. Usually when you dream back to back, it comes fast and it's imminent. So we'll see, but I really do believe that God is calling all of us, not just me, all of us to reap what we sow. And sometimes that costs us a lot of money, or a lot of time, or a lot of sacrifice. It's not necessarily just money, but when you give and you tithe, and sometimes your giving is not just money, it's other things, but give and tithe, God will make you prosperous, and he will bless you in different ways. So I think that is a message for all of us in this time, that this is a time of reaping and sowing, or sowing and reaping. So just be aware of that. But those are my 2 dreams. I'm about to pass out because it's so hot. When I have permission, I will, or when some things unfold, I will talk about last week and the 2 dreams that God gave me back to back that also had the same exact symbols and interpretation. Anyway, because that was interesting how that unfolded and came to pass really quickly. And it also explains why sometimes God doesn't give you the interpretation, and we'll talk about that. Because with those 2 dreams, he refused to give me the interpretation, and I told my husband in that morning, I was like, this is not good. I don't feel good about these dreams. This is not a good sign. I knew that they were not good. And so, but now I see why he didn't want to give me the interpretation. He wanted it to play out for various reasons. And we'll talk about those reasons. Anyway, but for today, that is it. I'm going to go inside where it's nice and cool. Go in his shalom.